What's up, everybody? Welcome to our Milwaukee Bucks special for the offseason. We're very excited to get into the draft, free agency, and potential trades. So we're going to get into it. Let's talk some Milwaukee Bucks.
Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatic Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
So what's going on, everybody? It is finally here. It is June 14th, 2024, and we have our Milwaukee Bucks offseason primer. We have a lot of really good stuff on deck for you guys. So I'm just going to explain a little bit what we're going to go through. So we have five major categories for the draft prospects. We added a sixth, so a bonus one. And then we have free agents that we're going to go through the same criteria, and then some trade scenarios, some draft and free agent scenarios as well in there. But our topics are floor spacing bigs, backup point guard, 3-and-D wing, defensive specialists, and backup point guard. Did I say that wrong? Buckets. That's the one I'm missing. I apologize. So those are our free agent and our draft categories that we're going to go through. We figured if we worded them like that, it would make a little bit more sense to, maybe the average fan. So you could think of, when we talk about this guy, you're like, oh, okay, they're talking about floor spacing bigs. This guy must be a guy that stretches the defense, right? And that obviously fits in with Giannis and Dame and the entire modern NBA offense. So it should be really, really informative, really, really fun. I'm excited for this. And I think the trades are going to be interesting to see how both of our brains work, but I think we're going to have a lot of crossover with the prospects. There's going to be some guys that we don't have on each other's list, but there is going to be a lot of crossover, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the part of the reason why we're doing it this way is to kind of give the idea of what these guys could do in the NBA should they be drafted by the Bucks, to give you kind of a feel of like what they're going to be doing or asked to do in the NBA should they be drafted by the Bucks. Part of the other reason we're doing it this way is because the Bucks pick at 23 and 33. So we didn't feel the need to go through the top 5 power forwards and the top 5 centers, 9 out of those 10 players who are going to be gone before the Bucks pick.
Yep.
So we did this way to A, identify the roles, and B, just kind of give more names that are going to be in that area, which it makes it helpful that the Bucks are only 10 picks apart on their 2 picks. So that does make it a little easier. Didn't have to research quite as many prospects.
Right.
I went anything pretty much 18 to 40-ish is where I started. And then just a couple other guys that I think fit some of the segments that we have coming in. So we are going to start with floor spacing bigs because Jake and I knew we have the same number 1. So Jake, why don't you just go ahead and talk about Khalil Ware?
Yeah, so Khalil Ware, number 1 on both of our lists for the floor spacing bigs, and he's going to get mentioned a whole bunch in this episode. I can promise you that.
Yep.
He's a big, tall guy, strong, finishes around the rim, but we're talking about the floor spacing, right? So 42% from the three-point line, 12.5% of all of his shots come from the three-point line. So he doesn't take a lot of them, but I feel like he takes enough of them where it's still a weapon. He's still a threat out there. You still have to think about it, which allows him to be so diverse and effective in other areas. He is very good as the trail big in the secondary fast break, which we've seen Brooke feast on for years. So immediately when I saw him feasting on after he gets a defensive rebound, Indiana was pushing the ball up, and he's coming up, and he's just yak, and I'm like, oh, okay, I like that. And also off the pick and pop, he has a little bit of game, so I just thought it was a good fit.
So for me, looking at Khalil Ware, day 1, he could be a pick and roll offensive threat and could pick and pop.
Yep.
Also, defensively, he brings a lot of good things as well. Definitely a shot blocking threat. Definitely a good defender overall. He has a career 99.6 defensive rating.
I like those things.
So Khalil Ware, all Big Ten defense and just all Big Ten overall, has the 5th longest wingspan in the draft at 7'4.5".
That's a lot of arm.
That's long. He was 6'11 3/4 without shoes on.
That's insane, dude.
So definitely a lob threat. Also, he tested very similarly athletically to Alex Sarr, who is going to be probably a top 2, not 2 pick in this draft. Very similar testing. So it's very possible that the way that Khalil Ware is trending, that he is gone before the Bucks pick. But if he's there at 23, no brainer.
Yep, agreed.
Okay. Hit me with your number 2.
My number 2 is Deron Holmes from Dayton. So when I wrote down my stuff and I put them in the categories, I only focused on the category when I was writing them down. So Deron Holmes, another guy for me that's going to show up in some other categories. But he shoots 38% from 3. Just under 21% of his shots come from the three-point line as well. He has a 8.3 offensive box plus minus. I just want to tell you right now, that is elite. That is an elite offensive box plus minus. He's very good at getting to the rim as well, but he's so good. He's probably my favorite player in this draft, to be honest with you. He can pick and pop. He can pick and roll. He can pull up, off the dribble for 3. I mean, he would absolutely be a home run hit, in my opinion. If they walk away in this draft with Khalil Ware and Deron Holmes, well, I'm going to start buying the 2025 NBA championship shirt. I'm being so serious.
Man. If they get both, bro, dude, set after Brook Lopez retires.
Dude, seriously. And we have Bobby's replacement.
Wow.
Oh, wait, maybe I should stop talking.
Yep, settle down. We'll get there. Number 2, I have Kyle Filipowski from Duke. 6'11", 230, first team all ACC, is a consecutive consensus All-American. He shot 34.8% from 3, so just about 35%. He did also average 1.1 steals, 1.5 blocks. I think his three-point percentage might leave a little bit to be desired, but that's still that 35% area is kind of where we expect Brook Lopez to be.
Yep.
So with that, it's strong enough, as well as his ability to pass, that he cannot be ignored on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what we need. It's why we have this category called floor spacing bigs. That's what we need alongside Giannis. We need a center that cannot be ignored on the perimeter so that a defender can camp in the paint. That's why we need a floor spacing big.
Agreed.
So his box plus minus is 10.1. So very high for Duke. He has the skills to effectively run the pick and pop / pick and roll. Definitely got the skills. His lack of athleticism and length could hurt in pick and roll situations defensively, but offensively, good court vision, good awareness, and he has a really nice spin move / drop step. So he's got some back to the basket offensive game.
I think you just read that off my paper. That's fine.
Also, he's in the 98th percentile for net rating of on-off court rating.
Jesus.
So 6.2 is the net rating for when he's on the court versus when he's off the court. So that's per 100 possessions. Duke would be expected to score 6.2 points more with him on the floor than off.
Yep.
That's what that means. All right. Who's your number 3?
I have Kashad Johnson from Arizona. This guy shot 38% from the three-point line. Over 30% of his threes, 32.6 to be exact, came from the three-point line. He does a really nice job of forcing havoc on the defensive end, moving his feet, and then just getting into transition. Now, he has the ability to get to the rim, and he's a very – I think he's an underrated athlete. He has a good NBA body, but he does a good job running a transition and understanding spacing. That's something that doesn't get talked about enough with these college kids especially, but it's becoming more and more of the norm. As they play more games, they're getting paid to play, so coaches are getting more money, so they're kind of putting more emphasis on stuff like that. In my opinion, he is the best in the draft at understanding spacing as a big man and running the floor to either the corner or the wing, the top of the key. He did it all. He would be a very, very good player, but just under Deron Holmes for me. I would be excited for Kashad Johnson as well, but Deron Holmes is just above him.
I like the emphasis on spacing. That's a really good thing to bring up. Number 3 is where I have Deron Holmes. So he was All-American, A10 Player of the Year, A10 Defensive Player of the Year, definitely a lob threat. I do think he's got some switchability defensively. I think it might change a little bit at the NBA level how much switchability he has, but he's a big shot blocker. He averaged 2.1 blocks per game in addition to the shooting that he brings. And I think he can put the ball on the deck a little bit.
Yeah.
I think he's also, if you watch highlights of him, just watch his tape. He's got a little bit of Euro ability in his game.
He's a good finisher.
So when you were saying, he can create, like, he definitely can.
Oh yeah, I watched his highlight video twice.
He's got some very good highlights. Had just good stats all around. I mean, he averaged 20.4 points a game, 8.5 rebounds, and 2.6 assists.
Mm-hmm.
So very all around solid big man.
Yes.
All right, hit me with your number 4.
So this is where I have the Duke big man, Kyle Filipowski, 35% from 3, like you said. Quarter of his shots come from the 3-point line. And I also wrote down there, this guy is made in a lab to replace Brook Lopez on the Bucks. Has good ability at the top of the key as a passer, and he also has a post-up game. He has some pretty good footwork, which is a lost art. And he finishes right over that right shoulder because he's a left-handed guy. But I was just like, holy crap, dude, this is Brook's replacement right here, just left-handed and also 7 feet tall. So if he ever figures out the timing on defense to block the shots or just disrupt the shots like Brook Lopez does, literally a carbon copy, just left-handed.
That's fair. All right, number 4. This is probably the first of several times you're going to hear this name mentioned. Number 4 is where I have Tristan da Silva from Colorado. So he's 6'9", 217, so maybe a little bit undersized to be called a floor spacing big, but he's going to be essentially a power forward. Now, if whatever NBA team drafts him, uses him at small forward, I think he's got some Michael Porter Jr. potential in his game. He would be a huge small forward, and he shot 39.5% on threes last year. Super, super athletic. Like 38.5-inch vertical, long arms to play the passing lanes, and he can make contested shots. So he's a good on-ball defender. He had 1.6 defensive win shares for Colorado last year. He's a good finisher around the rim, just 16 points a game, 5.1 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and a steal. Really just good all-around big man.
Yes, sir.
All right, who's your number 5?
All right, this is my sleeper of the draft. I have him on a couple different lists, but his name is Enrique Freeman. He played for the Zips in Akron, Ohio over there. He shot 37% from 3, but he did only take 2 per game. That's 13.5% of his total shots. This guy has a kitchen sink on the offensive end. Euro steps, spin moves, off the dribbles, pull up mid-range, pick and pop from 3. The reason that he's a little bit lower, and you hear me talking about him so highly, is because I don't take the competition he played against very highly. I know that's kind of a thing that, it's kind of been washed out. I mean, we have a guy, Damian Lillard, our second best player, went to Weber State. So I know that could be a silly thing to say, but he also needs to be a little bit more consistent, I think, with his shot. Only taking 2 per game is something that scares me a little bit, but him making 37% of those also gives me hope on the other end of the spectrum that he has the base to become a very, very good, effective shooter. So him taking mid-range, he was making turnaround post shots. And I was just like, is this Kobe Bryant or is this Enrique Freeman I'm watching right now? I don't know what's going on. But he was a hooper, a gamer, definitely a guy that gave a lot of effort and hustle. So I have become a fan of Enrique Freeman. It's random, but it's here.
All right, my number 5 is a guy that I'm going to have on multiple lists as well. Number 5, I have Tyler Smith from the G League Ignite team.
Yep.
He's 6'11", 224. When I bring him up in a later segment at the very end of this show, I'm going to give you his comp, and it's going to just put a nice little bow on this whole show perfectly.
Okay.
So keep that in the back of your mind.
Yep.
But he shot 47.6% from field, 36.4% from the three-point line, and 73.2% from the free throw line. He's got a really, really smooth left-handed jump shot. Also a lob threat, as his 6'11", 224 frame also has a 38-inch vertical.
That's pretty good.
38-inch vertical at 6'11" is ridiculous.
Yep.
So that his length, I think, could help him be a formidable shot blocker in the future. Got a little bit of growing to work in that area, but another guy who can run the pick and pop, pick and roll, has some back to the basket mid range ability, and I think he can. I think he can put the ball on the deck a little bit as well. All right, so I'm going to give you my number 6, kind of a bonus one. I have Bobby Clintman from the NBL Australia.
Okay.
So it doesn't have like huge numbers, like he averaged very little points per game and everything, but his shooting 36.8% from the 3-point line. His skill set is kind of similar to Tristan da Silva. He's a good cutter, very athletic, a little bit of shot blocking, but he is a bit of a project, which is why he's number 6 on my list, because Eric Name had tweeted that the Bucks are looking to potentially shy away from projects and they're looking more for NBA ready talent.
Makes sense.
So that's why he's lower on my list. Okay, let's move into buckets. This is going to be a fun category. I'm excited for this category. I want to know who your number 1 is.
This is my second favorite category that we're doing, but I'll give you my number 1 right now. His name is Jalen Tyson from Cal.
Okay.
I'm actually a big fan of him. 6'6", 218 NBA body. In my opinion, I was reading all the offensive ratings and the defensive ratings and going through all the metrics. This guy is the definition of a bucket. If we were just going for a guy that was just – this guy just plays offense. He doesn't play much on defense. But if you need a guy that's going to be a sixth man and going to go in there and you want him to be aggressive and score, Jalen Tyson's your type. He was asked to take a lot of tough shots and make a lot of tough shots, and it made me think of 22. I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay.
I was like, 6'6", 218. He's taking some tough middies, taking some tough three-pointers. I'm like, yo, this guy might be it. He did. He made 30% of his shots came from behind the arc, actually 291, so damn near 30%. And he was making them at a 36% clip, so that's a great sign. He has good size and good athleticism. So, again, 6'6", 218, making 36% of his threes, making tough mid-range J's. I'm like, yeah, this is the guy.
All right, so my number 1, I have Baylor Shireman from Creighton. Now, also 6'6", 205. He's a very similar size and potentially skill set to Dante DiVincenzo and Grayson Allen.
I like both of them on the Bucks.
So if you miss either of those two guys, Baylor Shireman is your guy. He is a catch-and-shoot sniper. He can put the ball on the floor. He's got NBA range. He's a good passer. He's a 3-level scorer. He can go back to the basket for some mid-range. He's a crafty finisher at the rim. He's got great footwork on his mid-range. He shot 38.1% of three-pointers last year, 39% for his career. He's a good free throw shooter. He has a career 99.2 defensive rating, averaged 18.5 points, 9 rebounds, and just shy of 4 assists last year. He was all Big East at Creighton. Then at the Combine, during the Combine game, he put up 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals. So playing well against his peers. So Baylor Shireman is my number 1 bucket.
I like it. I like it a lot. So my number 2 is another Duke Blue Devil, Jared McCain. He's an interesting guy in my opinion, but he's a guy that is kind of like a miniature Klay Thompson in my opinion. He doesn't have a lot of fancy dribbles, but when he dribbles with a purpose and he gets the job done. He can finish around the rim at a decent clip, and they just bring him around, every type of screen possible, the Duke Blue Devils did, and he was making three-pointers. This guy is a microwave. If he gets hot from behind the arc, it might be over because he's over there from deep. He was pulling up from damn near the logo in some of his shots. I'm like, yo, this kid is 19 years old just pulling up from the logo. Imagine some NBA tutelage to this guy, some strength conditioning. He's going to get all these shots up like this dude could be a problem, right? And it's funny you said the Grayson Allen thing. I kind of thought of Grayson Allen on the Suns this year, where all he was asked to do was shoot threes. All he was asked was to space the floor. That's what I thought of Jared McCain. I was like, dude, if they just ask him to just simply come in and shoot threes like they did with AJ Green last year, and now AJ Green's going to take a higher role this year with the Bucks and step up and be more of a 3-and-D kind of player. If they have somebody fill in for AJ Green and McCain is that guy, I see that role being possible with him. Now, he's only 6'2", 203, so he's not very big, but he can get a shot off against anybody because he's got some pretty good quickness. But I really like him as a bucket guy because he can just heat up at any moment.
All right. Number 2, I have another guy. If you like or miss Dante or Grayson, Pelle Larsson is my number 2 bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Pelle Larsson from Arizona. He's not just a catch and shoot guy. He's a perfect off-ball shooter that will stay active. He's not just going to camp in the corner, which is something that we appreciate about Pat Connaughton.
Mm-hmm.
A guy being a willing cutter, willing to work that dunker area versus, say, Malik Beasley, who's more of just a catch and shoot. He's going to camp on the three-point line.
Mm-hmm.
So Pelle Larsson, 6'5", 208, very similar size to Baylor Shireman. He's got a little bit of weight. He's got about 5 pounds on Dante, 10 pounds on Grayson, but other than that, they're pretty much the same size. His shooting stroke, pure. He's a great cutter, a 3-level scorer, just like Shireman, plenty of range, no fear of scoring in the paint. There's nothing that stops him from going against big men. Personally, I think he could be the best catch and shoot player in the draft.
Oh.
And he shot 42.6% on 3-pointers at Arizona last year. And to throw this in, a career. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save that because I have him in another category.
I'm saving some of my stuff too.
I'm going to save that part for another category. All right, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is actually a guy I had at number 5. I had to move him up because he got let go of some legal problems.
Yep.
And you know who it is.
3. Look at us.
Terrence Shannon Jr. out of Illinois. He was my number 5, again, because he had all that off-the-court problems. But I moved him up to number 3. This guy is an NBA body, 6'7", 220. Absolute nightmare in the fast break. And if you've noticed anything last year on the Bucks, they need another nightmare in the fast break.
Yep.
Giannis is the only person making.
They need one in the second unit.
Yeah, they could, 100%. Absolute nightmare. He finishes at the rim, over people, around people, through people. It doesn't matter. He is absolutely a downhill guy. If he was a running back in the NFL, he'd be a go forward and he's going to run 80 yards at any time type, right? And he also has a pretty good jumper. I wish he had a little bit more of a mid-range game, but that's something that he can obviously develop. But I would love it. But Terrence Shannon,
get out of my notebook.
He'd be a welcome person on the Bucks, and I know you agree now.
I have written down that I think he's capable of being a 3-level scorer, though I'm not 100% sold on his mid-range game.
Yep.
His slashing and 3-point abilities definitely solidify him as a bucket.
Yep.
So I have him at 6'8", 210. I tried to get the combine stats for as many of these guys as I could. So he was 2-time All Big Ten. I think he's more than just not saying that you think he's only a transition guy. Obviously, shot 36.2% on threes last year, so definitely a bucket. His left to right crossover is disgusting.
It is.
It's probably one of the better signature moves, like I mentioned with Kyle Filipowski and his drop step, his spin move. Terrence Shannon left right crossover, just as nasty, just as good at getting himself open.
Effective.
Also 47.5% on field goals and 80% at the free throw line.
Love that.
Yeah. All right, who's your number 4 bucket?
All right, first repeat for me. This is where I have Deron Holmes the second. This guy is straight up just a gamer, hustle hard. He can score in so many ways. Like you said before, lob threat, pick and pop, pick and roll. I see his fit with the Bucks on offense really kind of seamless. He could play in that dunker area, weak side off of Giannis, and literally just feast all day. If he was on the Bucks, I could see him having multiple 20-point games, just getting wide open layups off the Giannis and Damian Lillard or Chris and Giannis pick and roll.
I was picturing Chris throwing him lobs.
I mean, even Chris and Deron Holmes running a pick and roll because Chris is such a good passer at throwing it above the rim. I think that he would absolutely fit seamlessly with the Bucks. Averaged 20.4 points, 8.5 rebounds. You mentioned the 2.1 blocks. He shot 54% from the field, 38 from 3, and he's a 71% free throw shooter. Here's the thing that was crazy to me. 72% free throw attempt rate. That means he was effectively getting to the rim, and people had to stop him by fouling him. You're telling me that doesn't scream like draft me, Bucks? Because Giannis is shooting that many times.
Right.
And Dame at times. And when Chris
True.
is aggressive getting to the rim. I mean, Bobby, when he goes to the rim every once in a while, he can shoot 5 or 6 himself. You have another guy that knows how to draw fouls. That is a skill that needs to be utilized. I would love Deron Holmes.
I like that. My number 4 is another guy who's going to appear in another category for me. I have Tyler Kolek.
Oh, okay. I see you.
So he was the 2023 Big East Player of the Year, 3.4 offensive win shares, and a 6.9 offensive box plus minus.
Oh, wow.
He is extremely crafty around the rim. I think he's deceptively fast. I've seen him compared to Goran Dragic, which I think is the perfect comparison for him.
Yep.
But the bold comparison that I've seen for him, and I totally 100% understand it. Obviously, it's a heavy one, but I've seen him, his ceiling compared to Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, that's nuts, dude.
It's a crazy comparison, but I can see it.
I see the path for it.
So he shot 49.6% from the field, 38.8% from the three-point line, and 85.1% from the free throw line. So the dude is a bucket.
Love that.
All right, who's your number 5?
This is where Enrique Freeman comes up again for me. This is actually the order that I was doing my notes. This is the first time that he showed up in my notes, but I allowed him to go in other categories. So 6'8", 212, he's a 7'2" wingspan and a 35-inch vertical. So those long arms with that 35 inches, he easily dunks the ball. So that makes him a very good roll option. Pick and pop threes from the top of the wing, as I mentioned before. Decent post-up game going over the left shoulder. He does control the post very well. Doesn't have to take 1,000 dribbles. 1 or 2, gets comfortable, finds a spot, and shoots that thing. 18.6 points per game, 12.9 rebounds, 1.7 blocks, 58% from the field, 37% from three-pointer, and 73% free throw. On top of that, to put the cherry on there, 124 offensive rating. So very good offensive player. He had a 91.1 defensive rating as well. So that's why I'm telling you, man, this guy might be a super sleeper.
Okay. My number 5, I have another Colorado Buffalo on my list. I have KJ Simpson. 6'2", 175, 47.5% from the field, 43.4% from the three-point line, and 87.6% from the free throw line. So he scores everywhere he goes. He averaged 19.7 points per game last year, had a 55.2 effective field goal percentage, and similarly to Tyler Kolek, a 6.9 offensive box plus minus.
Nice.
That is nice. He's 2-time All Pac-12, so his three-point percentage went from 27.6 in 2022-2023 season to 43.4% in 2023-2024. So 16% increase in three-point percentage is definitely a good. He's also got some floater game, and I think he has a really good sense of using the rim to protect his shot from getting blocked. That was something I really liked about him, being a guy who's a little bit smaller at 6'2", that he has that wherewithal to be aware of where he's going to be on the floor and use the rim to protect his shot.
I like it.
Having a 40.5-inch vertical doesn't hurt.
No, it does not.
So his handles combined with his speed helps him get to the rim, and then he can use the rim to protect his shot. And I do think he's also catch and shoot capable. So I think KJ Simpson is a bucket. One guy I'll throw in there, I think he's probably going to go undrafted, but I'm going to throw Cam Christie from Minnesota in there as well. He's 6'6", so a 6'6" shooting guard. We have one. Wouldn't mind another one.
Yeah,
Plus he's going to be 19 in July.
Not a bad thing.
He was on the Big Ten all-freshman team. He shot 39.1% from three. He only shot 40.3% of the field goals, but that's because 58% of his field goal attempts were threes. So this dude, he literally just shoots threes.
Yep.
So also, if you made Cam Christie in 2K, he would have the Kevin Durant jump shot animation. Go watch Cam Christie's jump shot. It looks like Kevin Durant's jump shot.
Just a little shorter, but yeah.
It's just a little bit shorter. But he is also very athletic. So 6'6", he's got a 6'8" wingspan, so he's a little bit lengthy, and he has a 35.5-inch vertical.
Plenty of vert.
So I think there's some future ability should the Bucks want to bring him in as an undrafted free agent. I would be on board with that.
I like it.
All right, let's talk about some backup point guards. Who is our number one?
I have Tyler Kolek.
That's why I said our.
Okay. I didn't know if you did, but I was flip-flopping, man. I erased my 1 and 2 4 times. I'm not even shitting you. I kept switching them. I was like, God damn it, I like both these guys. But Tyler Kolek, I'll get into it. I'll leave the rest for you. He has 10 games. He had 10 games of at least 10-plus assists. His season high for assists last year was 18. He also had a game. His season high was 28 points. This guy could do it all. He could score and dish the rock.
Buckets list.
By far the best facilitator, best playmaker in this draft. It's not even close, in my opinion. There are other guys who have playmaking ability. He is by far head and shoulders above them. He's also one of the best spot-up shooters in this draft. Doesn't have elite burst in my opinion, but he's a crafty, smart guy who uses angles to attack people and uses people's, when he attacks people at an angle, he uses the help defense and dishes it off to the big man. So then the big man, because he's such a good facilitator, has to think about that. He gets a lot of layups off that kind of stuff. Now, if you're watching this, I'm going to tell you, and Tyler will back me up, I am not a Marquette guy.
Yeah.
So for me to put Tyler Kolek at number one, I'm being dead serious about this. I think he's by far the best backup point guard prospect in this draft, in the range that the Bucks draft. So Tyler Kolek for me would be a welcome draft pick for the Bucks.
The way that you said everything you said tiptoed perfectly around what I have written about how I view him as a point guard. Because I believe that he is good at probing defenses with his dribble to find the openings in the defense.
Yeah.
So with him, you see there's some possessions where he kind of just dribbles in a giant circle around the defense. And then all of a sudden somebody's wide open and it's like, what the hell? How did that dude get wide open from him dribbling in a circle?
You remember who else used to do that? Steve
Nash.
Yeah.
Jinx.
I honestly was thinking of Steve Nash when I was watching this stuff.
He's got some pretty highly touted names saying some really good things about him.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Crean just tweeted Tyler Kolek equals TJ McConnell.
Damn, I want to hate TJ McConnell comparison so bad, but I would love him on my team.
Exactly. If we had one, we'd like that. Now, Rick Pitino tweeted, Tyler Kolek is a sleeper pick in the late first round. He's better than people think. He sees the play before it happens.
Yes.
So he's also a very good passer. He's an All-American. He was the 2023 Big East Player of the Year. And then there's a new company that is Mark Cuban led called Cerebral Sports.
Mm-hmm.
They had Tyler Kolek as the highest rated floor general at an 87 rating out of 100.
Telling you. He'd be a monster pick, dude.
He would be an amazing pick.
The bench mob automatically improves with him as the backup. They have direction.
He would be such a night and day improvement over what we had when we signed Campaign a year ago at this time.
Yep. Great.
We'll get into some of the free agent stuff, but if we're looking at it just strictly from that lens, Tyler Kolek would bring a lot to the second unit in just basketball IQ alone.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Who's your number two?
Here's the guy I kept flip-flopping with Tyler Kolek. Carlton Carrington out of Pittsburgh, 6'4", 195, nickname of Bub. Love it. So simple, but I love it. He's a very solid shooter off the bounce, especially in transition. That is a tough shot. People that don't play basketball, that is hard to go full speed, and he gets the ball and he pushes the pace, and to just stop on a dime and pull up and make a three-pointer, a la Tyrese Maxey. I like Tyrese Maxey.
I love Tyrese Maxey.
Gives me a little Tyrese Maxey vibes, not going to lie. With the 6'4", the skinny, and the pull-up threes, I'm like, yo.
Okay.
He's not as quick, though. But he has a very good handle and good playmaking ability. 4.1 assists to 1.9 turnovers. That's a 24% assist rate compared to a 13% turnover rate. So a guy that, takes care of the ball, can shoot a little bit. I like all those things.
Yeah, those are good things. My number one and my number two are both guys that I had already previously mentioned. Number two is where I have KJ Simpson again. He's already on my buckets list. He's a good passer. He, similarly to Baylor Shireman, performed really well in the combine game. He had 16 points on 7 of 13 shooting and added 3 steals. He has a career 100.6 defensive rating and has a 40.5-inch vertical. Like I mentioned, that's the second highest for any point guard in the draft, only to Reed Shepherd, who's going to be a top 10 pick.
Yep.
He's ranked number 1 in lane agility from the combine. So he had the number 1 lane agility at the combine for point guards. So definitely got to keep an eye on as an athletic potential backup point guard.
Very nice, very nice. So for number 3 for backup point guards, this is where I have Jared McCain from Duke. He loves to push the pace and pull up in transition. He is a problem from behind the arc. He shot 41% from 3 as a total, and he was 42.6% on spot-up three-point shots. So a guy that can just hit you either way. Off the dribble, there's my cat, say hello. 46% from the field overall, 89% free throw rate. He averaged 16 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 2.2 assists. Now, you might look at the assists and be like, why do you look at this guy as a backup point guard? His usage rate was tiny. I want you to understand that. Tiny usage rate, and he scored 16 points. That's dangerous.
Okay.
That's what I'm telling you. This guy gives me microwave vibes, bro. This J.R. Smith vibes. Like, he just starts chucking threes, and all of a sudden he has 30, and you're like, what is happening? And the other team's asking what's happening as well because Giannis also has 30. So Jared McCain would just be a great transition in my addition in transition. That's what I wrote down because I wanted to be slick. But I got you.
Number 3, I have Jamal Sheed from Houston. 6'1", 190, so he's a little smaller. But he, in my opinion, would be like the Patrick Beverley replacement. I have a feeling you're going to say something similar when we get to him. He was the Big 12 Player of the Year, was the AAC Defensive Player of the Year in 2023, and the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in 2024. Was an All-American. He has good burst. I don't think his shooting reflects his mechanics and his confidence, so I think there's a possibility that he could get better as a shooter, although he is one of the older prospects in the draft. Defensively, great motor. All caps, great motor defensively. He's got some handles to him. He really turns the defense into offense quickly. Runs less pick and roll, more pick up the pace. So you mentioned that with some other guys on your lists, that having a guy on the second unit that can push the pace, I think is something that the Bucks could benefit from. Yes. Also, another guy with a huge vertical, 37.5-inch vertical. And some good character. There's video you can find on Twitter after Houston loses a tough game where there's like a garbage can that gets thrown, and he's one of the guys picking up the garbage after his coaches and teammates.
I love that.
So there's good character there as well. So I appreciate that, and I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely. So my number 4 for the backup point guard section, this is where I have KJ Simpson out of Colorado. I think you've said everything about him, but what I wrote down is he plays a really good pace. He plays with good aggression, and he made some massive, massive leaps in his three-point shot. 47% from the field, 43% from the three-point line, and 88% from the free throw line. He averaged 20.6 rebounds and 5 assists. And again, him being a smaller guy, 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", whatever site you read off of. The 40.5-inch vertical, I mean, that helps. That makes things a lot easier. I think he plays with good strength for his size. He does a nice job when he gets into the paint, I think, of giving guys a little bit of shoulder. And now people see that, and they don't realize that, like, it actually takes a lot of upper body strength to chuck somebody off and then be able to fluidly get your shot off, a layup or a mid-range shot or a little push shot. Like, I think that he has good upper body strength, and he's able to do that kind of stuff.
To do that, you have to be able to do it without fouling. So that's where I think the strength aspect comes into it, because anybody can just throw 200 pounds into somebody's chest and create space. You have to be able to do it like while making contact and then be able to separate going back in the other direction.
Yeah, so I think he does a really good job with that, honestly. So you said it very nicely, saying that he uses the rim as protection. I agree with that. So KJ Simpson, again, wouldn't be upset. There's a lot of guys that kind of that fit into what the Bucks need very well.
Agreed. And I think that's going to reflect into some later segments. My 4 and 5 guys are both guys that I think are possibly going to go undrafted. My number 5 definitely I think is going undrafted, but number 4 maybe, and that's where I have Zion Pullen from Florida. He's a 6'4", 195-pound point guard. Averaged 15.5 points a game and 5 assists. Shot 44.4% from the field, 44.9% from the 3-point line.
Yep.
Also an 84.7% free throw shooter. Was all SEC at Florida. He says he watches Andrew Nembhard and says he can see himself in a similar role.
Interesting.
So I agree with you. I think that's interesting. He had 4.0 offensive win shares. He's quick and fast. There's a difference there. Being able to have a quick burst versus being able to just have top end speed. I think he's got dribble pull up in his game, and he has good court vision.
Okay. So I'm just going to tell you, my number 5 is 100% going undrafted. I don't think that he's going to be a Milwaukee Buck, but I think that it'd be interesting. Bronny James.
Point guard, huh?
I'm being serious. 6'2", 210. I think it's worth a flyer. He has the athleticism. The basketball IQ will get instilled in him. I promise you that. His dad's pretty smart. He's been around basketball his entire life. So the reason that I say this, now, I understand that a lot of people are kind of upset that he's kind of getting the platform that he's getting just because of who his dad is, and he didn't play a lot. It is what it is. Now, when I watch him, I see a kid that is intense. He loves basketball. Like I said, he's been around it his entire life. So when he goes on an NBA team, he's going to get coached up by NBA caliber coaches. He's going to be around NBA players. What is he going to do in the offseason? He's going to be around NBA players, NBA caliber trainers. So this kid's going to be around NBA training his entire NBA career.
Yep.
He's going to have whatever the hell he wants at his disposal.
Yep.
There is only a chance that he gets better. So that's why I think that it may be worth a flyer if he's an undrafted guy, which he probably will be. Unless some team really thinks they can get LeBron.
I was going to say, I think at some point after like 50, I think a team's going to be like, screw it, it's worth the PR to see what happens.
Yep.
Personally, I see him as a little more as a shooting guard, but to your point on taking a flyer and seeing what happens, as far as what you think about him compared to who his dad is, Doc Rivers will not give a shit, I promise you.
Nope.
So that's not going to be a problem.
Nope.
So it's not going to be any situation, well, it's going to be, here we go, we're going to have to cater to him because his dad is LeBron. Doc Rivers will not give a shit.
Yeah, he don't play that shit. He's old school.
Yep. So you can kind of just put that in the back burner and not think about it. My number 5 is the guy that I think is also definitely going to go undrafted, but I felt like putting him on here just because like I see the skills potentially transferring. I have Juan Nunez from Spain. So he's a 6'3" point guard, averaged 9.9 points, 4.9 assists, 3.4 rebounds, and 1.7 steals. He's only 20 years old, so I think there's some potential here. He's definitely a pass first point guard.
Yep.
His turnover numbers do kind of reflect that. Not a great isolation scorer, but he does keep the ball on a string. He is a great ball handler, has good form, but I think his shooting needs to improve, and he needs to cut down his turnovers. But I think he's pretty good potentially as just a backup point guard. You hear Spain, you hear point guard, you think Ricky Rubio. That's just where it goes. I think that potential path is there, obviously, hopefully without the injuries. So I felt like putting him on my list. I do think he's another guy that's going to go undrafted, though. All right. This might be my favorite segment.
This was my toughest to put together, in my opinion.
My
favorite was defensive specialist.
This was the toughest to put in the order that I wanted them in.
Okay, that's fair.
So I'm excited for this. This might be my favorite prospect when we get to my list. So hit me with your number 1, 3, and D guy.
You're going to be shocked. It's Jon Horst the second.
Oh, all right.
He has a 96.5 defensive rating, so he's already got good tools and good principles on the defensive end. He had 2.3 blocks and 1 steal per 36. I don't give a shit about regular stats. Give me the per 36. That tells me more, in my opinion.
Yep.
Really good feet, can stay in front of defenders. Now, he's a guy that can be a little bit of a tweener, so I think he can guard anywhere between 2, 3, and 4s. I don't think he's guarding any point guards, and I don't think he's guarding many centers. Now, if somebody decides to go really, really small, maybe. But he's definitely a guy that
small ball center.
He could play. Yeah, he definitely fits in the small ball. But, he has good wingspan, 7'1" wingspan, so that's where the 2.3 blocks and the 1 steal kind of comes into a factor. But Jon Horst, number 1 3-and-D wing, absolutely.
My number 1 3-and-D guy I'm super excited about is Keyshawn George from Miami.
Oh, he's on my list, but not number 1.
He's 6'8", 205. He can play 1 through 3, and I think he could maybe play some power forward if he had some weight.
Dude, he's big.
He's big. He's big. He looks bigger than 6'8".
Yeah.
He's got a 6'10" and a quarter wingspan. Shot 42.6% from the field, 40.8% on threes. Has driving kick ability as a slasher. Has good court vision, something I don't think he's getting credit for as far as a lot of draft people are talking about him. A good on-ball and off-ball defender. His defensive rating is a little bit higher at 106.9, which isn't crazy, but it's still pretty solid. As far as shooting, he has a catch and shoot, and he's a dribble pull-up. Definitely got NBA range. And also, he's good in transition. And what I think might be my favorite part about him and why I have him so high on this list is there is no fear in his game when it comes to shooting.
No.
And that's what I want from a guy who I want shooting, is I want a guy who's not going to be afraid to put it up no matter what happens.
Yep, I agree with that. So, my number 2, this is where I have Kashad Johnson again. He has great agility and side-to-side mobility. He can defend almost any wing, in my opinion. And then he's really good at running a transition, as I said before, 38.7% from 3 per 36 and 32.6% of his shots coming from behind the arc. So a guy that can absolutely, like I said before, understand spacing, knows where the spots where to go, and he can lock you up if need be. That Arizona team really underperformed, in my opinion. They had a lot of talent last year, but Kashad Johnson was at the head of it.
Yeah, spoiler alert, as far as Arizona is concerned. Number 2, I have Terrence Shannon. Mentioned he's 6'6", 225. I think he's got the ability to be a 3-and-D guy. Shot 36.2% from the three-point line. His career defensive rating is 98.2. So I think he's not just a 3-and-D guy. He's got decent passing ability, definitely a slasher. He's got solid range. He's very good in the open court, like Jake hammered on when we were talking about buckets.
Yep.
As far as defensively, I think he plays the passing lanes well. He can defend on the ball, and he has chase down and recovery block ability. So I'm guessing Jake was going to say something similar in the future, so I'll leave it at that.
Chase down block. Yeah, I have chase down blocks on there.
Okay. I'll let you talk about him again in a minute, but who's your number 3?
I did not expect us to have two of the same people on this list. I'm going to be honest with you. But my number 3, that's where I have Keyshawn George out of Miami. Dude, he looks massive. I agree with you. He definitely looks bigger than 6'8". I don't know if they're measuring from the bottom of the throw or the top of the throw, but
that's fair.
They need to figure that out. 68% of his field goal attempts were from the three-point line. This kid is the definition of shoot or shoot, bro.
He could have easily been in the buckets list.
He easily could have. He's hitting 40% of those 68%, by the way. Kid is a straight up sniper, dude. Oh my goodness. He has really good length and good youth. That's key to learning defense. I think that he has good off-ball defense, so I agree with you there. A little bit of work on the on-ball defense, in my opinion, being able to body some guys up, but the base is there. The base is there. I love him as a potential guy that they could move into a more important role in the future here. I think getting in the Bucks system, people who love to play defense, there's a couple people on the Bucks that love to play defense. I think that would do wonders for a guy like Keyshawn George. I agree with you that his 106.9 defensive rating is a little bit high, but it's not crazy. But the 0.6 blocks and the 1.4 steals gives me a lot more hope than that defensive rating does. So hopefully, I mean, the 6'10 wingspan too, plus the hair with the 3-point shooting. I mean, the swag is unmatched.
As far as the on-ball defense, I think part of the not necessarily a problem, but he's a little handsy.
Yeah.
So it does benefit him in ways where he can get steals, but it does also get him a little bit of you reach, I teach type situations, and could potentially get him into some foul trouble.
Yep.
So I'll throw that out there. My number 3 is a guy that I've already mentioned is Pelle Larsson. I don't want to give it too much away, but coming back to Arizona, and again, if you miss Dante or Grayson Allen, Pelle Larsson could also be your guy. Pure shooting stroke. He's a great cutter, 3-level scoring ability, plenty of range, no fear shooting. Another guy like that. Like I said before, I think he could be the best catch and shoot player in the draft. The 42.6% 3-point percentage last year, paired with his 100.5 career defensive rating.
That's a good defensive rating, by the way.
That's a good defensive rating. Anything below like 105, I would say is good. Anything below 100, I would say is elite.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, so that's where I have Pelle Larsson, number 3. Who's your number 4?
That's where I have Johnny Furphy, 6'8", and also a 6'8" wingspan, 189 pounds. 60% of his shots come from the three-point line. He averaged 0.5 blocks, 1.3 steals per 36. He is hitting 35% of the threes that he's taking. So he's another kid that's super, super young, has a 3-and-D potential when you watch him play. He's not afraid to guard anybody. That's something that you can kind of tell, when somebody, switches onto a screen, that you're switching every screen. You can tell when a guy's a little scared. He's backing up a little bit. Legs are a little choppy. He doesn't have any of that. And he has a 100.7 defensive rating. So Johnny Furphy, fun name and would be a fun player.
I think he kind of reminds me of Joe Ingles a little bit.
I can see that. I mean, he doesn't have crazy length, having the 6'8" wingspan, being 6'8". Obviously, 6'8" is not short. But there's a lot of guys that are 6'8" and have like 7'1" wingspans. And you're like,
right,
guy's got some long-ass arms. The
Andre
6'8"
Jackson Jr.
wingspan kind of caps him out playing passing lanes a little bit unless he's super smart with it. But he still is a decent defender.
Number 4, I have a guy that you've mentioned already. I have Jalen Tyson. So 6'6", 210. He's a 36.0 3-point percentage shooter last year. Cal averaged 19.6 points a game, 6.8 rebounds a game, and 1.2 steals per game. I like that he can play with his back to the basket a little bit. Is a slasher, a good cutter, has that 3-level ability, can catch and shoot, and play the dribble pull-up. So he can shoot those threes in multiple ways. Defensively, he can play the passing lanes. I think he switches well, and he's very active on the ball. His career defensive rating is 103.3.
I like it. I thought it was going to be sneaky with my fives on the 3-and-D and the backup point guard, but you had Terrence Shannon on your list as well. I thought you were going to call me crazy for having this, but he's a good defender. And like I said before, he has an NBA body, so he's able to body anybody up. He has good quickness, so I think that he could have potential to guard some point guards.
If we're looking, let's just say this. If you have a bar that you can move for offense and defense, in college, his offensive bar was like...
Yeah.
So when you can lower that offensive bar, when you get to the NBA, you can kind of start raising that focus on defense a little bit until you get that happy medium where he can be a really good offensive player as a catch and shoot 3 guy, or, a slasher on the second level, and have him, paying a little bit more of his energy and focus on defense. I think he can get even better than we're seeing on his tape at Illinois. Yeah,
I agree. And one of my biggest takeaways was his freaking chase down blocks, dude. Obviously, the guy's an athlete. So when you said chase down block, I was like, damn, man, that was like my big thing I was going to talk about. But having that ability is something that is awesome, especially from a guy that could be a backcourt player. Now, not only if he was on the Bucks would you have to worry about Giannis coming from the weak side, now you have to worry about Terrence Shannon coming to smack your shit off the backboard. So I think it would be lovely. I would love it. I wouldn't have to dislike him anymore because he played for Illinois,
Right. And I think the recovery block thing, I think it's really worth bringing up again. I didn't want to elaborate on it until you got your word in. But in the half court, there's times where guys can kind of start to get past his shoulder on the dribble, And he's able to recover and still block those shots when guys are going up for floaters, layups, or jumpers.
Yep.
So I really wanted to bring that up. Number 5, I have Justin Edwards from Kentucky. So he's 6'8", 203, has a 6'10" wingspan. His defensive rating is a little high at 110 for his career, but I think his shooting kind of makes up for it a little bit. 48.6% from the field, 36.5% from three, 77.6% from the free throw line. He's a 3-level scorer. You mentioned this with another player, but I think he's a microwave scorer. He is a catch-and-shoot monster, and I think his pro-ready program at Kentucky benefits him. Also a good cutter. He's another guy to play the passing lanes, and I think he would be like a good help shot contester. I think he's a good on-ball defender, as well as just being a good scorer. So just Justin Edwards, maybe with that 33, or if the Bucks were to potentially trade down, I think Justin Edwards would be a guy to keep an eye on.
I like it.
Number 6, I just wanted to throw this guy out there because he has done a pre-draft workout with the Bucks, so he's definitely in play at 33, is Dylan Jones from Weber State, the alma mater of Damian Lillard.
I was trying to fit him in, but I was like, I'm not going to force it.
The dude is a tank. He's 6'5", 235.
Yeah, he's girthy.
He's a tank. Averaged 20.8 points, 9.8 rebounds, 5.2 assists, and 2 steals a game at Weber State.
Yeah.
The Bucks were they had scouts watching him back in February even.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
He compares himself to Josh Hart. He's actually 2 inches taller than Josh Hart. Hoops Hype had an article written on him, called him a thicker Royce O'Neal.
Oh, wow. I don't hate either of those comparisons.
And at 6'5", has a 6'11" wingspan.
That's what I'm talking about, wingspans, bro. Like, this guy's 6'5", but
he'd be like a stronger, probably a little bit slower, but a little bit similar to Andre Jackson Jr.
I like Andre Jackson Jr., so I'm okay with that.
All right. Let's get into some defensive specialists.
Man, it was really hard to pick my favorite player from this draft, and this is my favorite section. And if there was a guy that I was going to call the defensive specialist, it's Ryan Dunn from Virginia.
Ryan Dunn. We have 3 number 1s that are the same guy. Ryan Dunn, far and away number 1.
So, random fact, same birthday as my dog, so that kind of gave him a little extra push.
That's really random. All right.
I love my dog, so I love Ryan Dunn now. I know when your birthday is, guy. So, 6'7.5", 7'1" wingspan. He makes winning plays, has great feet, and he will lock you down.
Dude.
He will clamp you.
Yeah.
He understands defensive positioning. He understands rotations. He uses his length to his advantage, and he can guard 1 through 5. Absolutely zero doubt about it in the NBA tomorrow. This is the guy the Bucks need to draft at 33.
100%.
I'm going to stand on business right now. They can draft whoever
totally
the freaking hell they want on 23. I don't give a shit. They get up there with 33, I better be hearing Ryan Dunn.
If he's not already picked.
This is the guy. 38-inch vertical, 3 blocks per 36, 1.7 steals per 36, and a 5.6 defensive box plus minus. Bro, stud. This guy is a stud on defense. He is the defensive specialist.
He is a shot blocking nightmare that can move his feet and play passing lanes.
Yeah.
He's athletic as hell and he moves his feet well. So like you kept saying, he will lock you up. He will lock you up.
Absolutely clamps, dude.
And if he gets switched onto a point guard, like if you're gonna come set a screen for your point guard and try to get a switch onto Ryan Dunn, he's blocking the point guard's jump shot.
Yep.
He did it 1,000 times.
He do it. They could have made a 10-minute highlight video of him literally just blocking little guards. They could have.
Yeah. He had a 7-block game against Wake Forest.
Jesus.
He averaged 8.1 points a game, 6.9 rebounds, 2.3 blocks, and 1.3 steals per game.
Wow.
Not a shooter. He's got a little bit of mid-range game to him, though.
He does.
And he can absolutely be a rim runner. So he can run some pick and roll, I think, would be an interesting thing to see. But remember before when we were saying like below 100 defensive rating is elite?
Yep.
His is 89.3.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Dude, I'm telling you, he is the defensive specialist in this
He's
draft.
the defensive specialist for this draft. Absolutely. If Ryan Dunn's available at 33, another no-brainer. We're going to get into some combos in a minute, but man.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to sidebar for a second because I wanted to with Ryan Dunn. If you're the Milwaukee Bucks and you're watching this NBA Finals and you know, because, we've done the research and we've looked into the Boston Celtics, contract situation, and Tatum and Brown are going to be there next year, how in the hell do you get out of this draft if Dunn is sitting there at 33 and not pick him? I don't care if he's a rookie. This guy got coached up by one of the best in college on the defensive end.
Just got extended today.
Yeah, whatever you want to think about him, he's one of the best defensive specialist coaches in college basketball. I mean, just go look at Virginia's defense overall, and then look at Ryan Dunn as being the main focus for that. A guy that can guard 1 through 4 easily, defend anybody on the perimeter, block shots. I mean, dude, absolute monster. And yeah, he's about to be in some combos, dude.
He's gonna be in my number one combo, I believe. All right, who's your number two?
My number two. Sorry about that. That's where I have Jamal Shed. Shed. 6'1.5", 201 pounds, 6'3" wingspan. This is the best small guard defender in the draft. Easily. I didn't want to disrespect him, but he also needed his flowers for defense. He gets steals. He pushes the pace. He's very much of a in-your-face type of player and absolutely a young pitbull Patrick Beverley type point guard, which is why I was like, okay, that's fair. His defensive box plus minus was 6.4, so he's 6.4 points higher than the average defender per 100 possessions. I just wanted to explain that for people at home. He had an 89.2 defensive rating, 2.5 steals per 36, which is also pretty insane, especially at the point guard position where you're guarding a lot of guys handling the ball. So 2.5 steals per game from the point guard is crazy. But yeah, he would be a welcome addition too.
My number two, I have Yves Missy from Baylor. 6'11", 229, Big 12 all defensive selection, and another guy at 6'11 that has a 38.5-inch vertical.
Yeah, that's just unnecessary.
He's not going to be a Brook Lopez replacement. He's not a three-point shooter at all. He is strictly what I have written down. If he is near the restricted circle on either end of the floor and the ball is nearby, it's not a good thing for your opponent.
Agreed.
Whether it's offensively or defensively, if the ball comes near the restricted circle and he's there, your shot's either getting blocked or he's dunking on you.
Yep.
He doesn't have a deep bag on offense, so I think he's really just kind of a rim running guy. Maybe some pick and roll, but he does have some experience playing like a drop type defense at Baylor.
Yeah.
So I do think there is potentially a benefit there, but he's the definition of a rim protector. Definitely wouldn't take him at 23. I would sure take him at 33, but I don't think he's going to make it. I think he's going to go somewhere in between that 23 and 33 range.
Yep. So for my number three, this is where I have Kashad Johnson from Arizona. He's on multiple lists. I'm a big fan of him. He can kind of fill a ton of roles, but he has a 42-inch vertical at 6'7.5" with a 6'11" wingspan. So a guy that can definitely become a weak side rim protector. He's a guy that runs the break like I brought up multiple times. 7.7 rebounds, 1.3 steals, and 0.9 blocks per 36 minutes. A 3.8 defensive box plus minus. So there's a little bit of room for improvement, but also a really good base. And when I'm looking later in this draft, I'm looking for guys who have coachable things that can improve, and these guys can become, assets in the future. And Kashad Johnson on defense definitely has some of those abilities.
Number three, I have Kevin McCullough Jr. from Kansas. 6'6", 206. He's, to me, I wrote this in my notes, he's Andre Jackson Jr. with mid-range and a little less athletic.
I like it.
Averaged 18.3 points, 6.0 rebounds, 4.1 assists at Kansas last year. He was an All-American honorable mention. Shot 45.4% on field goals, 33.3 from the three-point line, 80.5 from the free throw line. did average 1.6 steals for his career and has a career 92.7 defensive rating. He plays the passing lanes well, especially on the weak side. So you're not getting any of those rotational passes past him. And the other thing with him, we've talked about this with a guy that we talked about on Wednesday a little bit, who's a hot topic in Bucks conversations right now. But Kevin McCullough Jr. is a very good pick dodger.
Ooh, I like that.
Now, I do want to see what ends up happening with him as far as pick dodging goes at the NBA level, because you see sometimes NBA big men are kind of square dancing as they're setting picks.
Yeah.
So that is something that, while I think is worth mentioning, is going to be interesting to see how it translates to the NBA level.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who's your number 4?
So I said I wanted to find a way to fit Dylan Jones in the list, and I did. I did. Defensive specialist list.
I like it.
He's a long-rangey athlete, 6'6", 237, 6'11" wingspan. So, I mean, Jesus, he's just a massive human being. He uses his length to get steals in the passing lanes and on the ball. He has 19 games this year of at least 2 steals. So that's impressive. He's also very, very good on cleaning the defensive glass, which is something that the Bucks struggle with in the playoffs and at other moments in the season. So, guy that cleans the defensive boards at a really high rate. He averaged 9.6 rebounds per game, 1.9 steals, and had a 95.3 defensive rating. So, Dylan Jones out of Weber State, man. I think Damian Lillard would like that pick.
For sure. I think Damian Lillard would like my number 4 as well as Jamal Sheed.
Yeah.
Who I mentioned as one of my backup point guards.
Yeah. So, for number 5, I knew I was going to get to this point of saying his name, and I still knew I was going to laugh at when I told you about him. It's Adem Bona from UCLA.
Okay.
6'9.5", 243, 7'4" wingspan, which just sounds so stupid.
Hey, my number 5 guy has a 7'4" wingspan.
He has a 40-inch vertical with a 7'4" wingspan, bro. There is zero chances in the universe that I'm not putting this guy on a defensive specialist list. He has all the potential in the world. He's a great athlete. He needs to be coached up on a few things, though. He needs to be coached up on getting out of position and playing a little bit over-aggressive, in my opinion. But he has the right idea. Having the quickness and the length is a plus for him. A 96.5 defensive rating, 2.4 blocks and 1.5 steals per 36. A guy that I think can guard from the 5 all the way down to the 2 in special moments. I don't think he's going to be clamping up a 2 all game. Mm-hmm. But if he switched out there, I think that he has the ability to lock him down for a possession or 2. So let's go with that.
That's fair. My number 5, as I previously mentioned, also has a 7'4" wingspan. Ulrich Shamshe from NBA Africa.
Mm-hmm.
He has a 7'4" wingspan at 6'10", 232. He is the youngest player in the draft.
Oh.
So if you look at strictly just those parameters, this would be a similar pick to Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an unknown. I would not pick him at 23, but at 33, maybe. So again, if Ryan Dunn were to go somewhere between 23 and 33, I would be okay with picking Ulrich Shamshe.
Okay.
Averaged 13 points a game, 9 rebounds a game, 3.3 assists, 2.7 blocks, and 1.3 steals a game.
I like it.
Shot 42.4% from the field, 38.1% from the three-point line, which I'm wondering if it'll translate to the NBA or not, because as far as being his size, nobody's going to contest his shot. And 75% from the free throw line. So I do think he is a little bit more of a project than a now helper, and I think he's potentially a little bit of an offensive prospect shooting-wise, but he does have some decent passing ability.
Okay.
But as far as putting him on a defensive specialist lists, it's the 2.7 blocks, 1.3 steals, and the 7'4" wingspan.
I like it.
All right. Let's talk free agents. This will be a short segment.
Yeah, it won't take very long. So,
all right. Just hit me with your 3-and-D, or we can do it in the same order we did the draft picks. So hit me with your floor spacing bigs. Let's do that first. That's probably the best list.
Let me flip over here. So floor spacing bigs, I have 3 of them. So my number 1, I put Mike Muscala. I mean, it's not really science why he's number one. A guy that's been in the league for 10 plus years. He has lots of playoff experience. I know he shoots a ton of threes. He played for 3 teams last year. He played for Washington, Detroit, and then Oklahoma City. Didn't get a lot of playing time for Oklahoma City. But if you're looking for a guy that's going to spread the floor as a big, Mike Muscala is at the top of the list in the free agents. You want me just to rattle through mine and you go through yours?
Can I throw my most emphatic one that I want?
Yeah,
Then I have one that I think that's going to slip past you that I want also.
Okay, go ahead.
But the guy that I want badly, I've wanted him for 2 years. I want Mo Bamba.
Mo Bamba.
I want Mo Bamba. First of all, the vibes would be immaculate having Mo Bamba, but he's a career 36.1% three-point shooter.
Bro. Imagine the 60,000 people outside the Forum for the NBA Finals, and they're playing Mo Bamba.
Immaculate vibes.
That would be one of the greatest sports moment videos of all time. I don't care who you're a fan of. That would be insane.
Imagine him blocking like a Jason Tatum shot in the Eastern Conference Finals next year.
Oh, man. I mean, give me that. Yes.
And then they play Mo Bamba in the Deer District.
Oh, boy. I'm telling you.
Immaculate vibes.
I'm telling you. I like that one.
Average 1.3 blocks for his career. His role has kind of gone back and forth. Like I really thought Orlando was going to kind of turn him into their center of the future. And then he was part of a 4-team trade to the Lakers. The Lakers didn't really use him that much. And then he signed with Philly, and Philly didn't really use him that much.
It makes no sense.
Like he's got game. Like use him. He can shoot and he can defend the paint.
Right.
Turned 26.
Yeah.
So Mo Bamba is at the top of my list for floor-spacing bigs.
Is your number one? Oh, wow.
He's number one. Yeah.
My next one is a guy that kind of, has some game, but hasn't gotten the run that he should either. His name is Bol Bol.
Yep, he's on my list as well.
So he doesn't have a crazy points per game, but he did shoot 42.3% from 3 and 17.5% of his total shots were from the three-point line. Another guy who's a lanky defender, can stretch you out, and he's so big he could finish over the top of anybody in the paint. I don't understand why he's not getting playing time. It makes zero sense.
He's inconsistent. That's why.
I mean,
that's the only con I have on him is he's inconsistent. And to the point on playing time, and people talk about this a lot, is if you can give him some consistent playing time, if that consistency can smooth out. And that's essentially what, if you're signing Bol Bol, is you're betting on his potential and seeing if it hits.
It's got to hit at some point, man. He's too talented.
Right?
He's too talented. He's doing step back threes at 7'4". I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to have a chance at defending Wembanyama in the future, I mean, why not?
You're gonna need a guy like that, right? Exactly. My next one, and this one's probably a little bit more far-fetched, but I think he would be a really nice addition. And this one only happens if we trade our center, by the way, because he'd be the starter. Jonas Valanciunas.
Okay.
He could score down low. He could pick and pop, pick and roll. 31% from 3. 55% field goal overall. He's not the greatest defender in the world, but we're talking about floor spacing bigs, right? So guy that could stretch the floor. He grabbed 8.8 rebounds per game as well. So I think he would be a nice addition to the Bucks if they did decide to trade Brook Lopez.
Plus, if they sign him, then he won't kill us every year and give up, 30 points against us.
That is very true.
So there's that. Two other names that I want to throw out there. One is kind of tough because he's only 6'7", but Haywood Highsmith.
Mm-hmm.
He's a free agent from the Heat. He's a 36.8 career 3-point percentage shooter, and he's a decent defender.
Yep.
But being 6'7" kind of takes him out of there. One guy, I let you give your guys, except for Mo Bamba. This one, I kind of want him no matter what happens this offseason.
Uh-huh.
I want Dario Saric.
Really?
He's 6'10". He's a career 36.2% three-point shooter, and he's just kind of a decent all-around big guy.
Okay.
So if a different big man were to be traded, sign him the same day. Sign Dario Saric the same day. If Bobby Portis gets traded, sign Dario Saric on the same day.
Okay. I like Dario Saric. He's got a good game.
All right. Let's see. Hit me with some buckets in free agency.
Oh, good. I have that right above there. There we go. So my number one, and this is a guy that he may look to get paid, but he also may be looking for a little bit of revenge because he got traded from a good team. My number one guy is Emmanuel Quickly.
I love that. Love it. He might be looking to get paid too. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But strongly
If,
in favor.
so this is the crazy scenario, and I have a couple guys like this on this buckets list. Just in particular, I have 4 guys. So the reason that I say this is if you bet on yourself, there's all these stories all the time about guys betting on themselves before they get paid. This is a guy, Emmanuel Quickly. If he bets on himself, goes to the Bucks, competes, they win a championship, and he is an absolute monster running that second unit, that is when you secure the bag.
Yeah, that takes you from a 2 for 20 to a 3 for 60.
Yeah. So that's when you secure the bag. He averaged 17 points, 3.8 rebounds, 4.9 assists. He shot 43% from the field, 39.5, damn near 40% from the three-point line, and 85% from the free throw line. You want to talk about improving the backup point guard? Yeah. And he's young.
Strongly
His name is
endorse
literally
that.
Quickly.
Yep. Strongly endorse that.
Okay, so my number 2 is a guy that I wanted to trade for last year, but he was a little bit overpaid. He was on a player option. He's not on a player option, and he's not getting that same amount of money anymore. He has 6 straight seasons of averaging at least double-digit points, and he had a down year last year. His name, Gary Trent Jr.
I figured
Guy
he'd
that
come up again.
sniper. Dude, I was talking to you about him during the season last year. I was like, let's trade for him. Then I was like, never mind, he costs a lot.
Yep.
He's coming off a really, really bad season, so another guy we get on a prove-it deal. 13.7 points per game. That's absolutely the lowest in his 6 straight seasons of averaging double digits. He shot 42% from the field and 39% from three-point. So this guy is absolutely a sniper. Lock him in at the 2 and then space the floor.
Michael said he wants Nick Claxton. He's going to be far out of the Bucks price range.
Yeah, I don't know if we're getting him, buddy. I would love Nick Claxton too, believe me.
Yeah, he's going to get paid for sure. Probably by Brooklyn, but maybe by somebody else.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay. So the couple guys that I have that I want to throw out there, my number one guy, this 100% depends on his health, is Luke Kennard.
Ooh.
He shot 45% on threes last year, but I think he only played 36 games.
Yeah.
So this is 100% dependent on health. And if Luke Kennard is looking to potentially get himself paid, a 1-year deal, similarly like the Bucks did with Joe Ingles coming off of his ACL, being like, okay, before your injury, we knew you were a bucket. You're coming off an injury. Come be a bucket with us for a year and see if you can get yourself paid.
Okay.
So Luke Kennard, I have on my list. I have Buddy Hield on my list. There's a rumor that the Bucks are interested in him. He has very, very similar numbers to Malik Beasley, except for one big difference, and that's free throws. Buddy Hield shoots 17% higher than Malik Beasley at the free throw line.
Yeah.
Other than that, almost all of their other numbers, offensively and defensively, are negligible differences.
Okay.
I put Alec Burks on my list. He was essentially mostly on this list because he was a playoff performer. He wasn't playing a ton in the regular season for the Knicks, but in the playoffs, he averaged 14.8 points per game, shooting 50% from the field, 42.9 from the three-point line, and 84.4% from the free throw line. So Alec Burks comes in basically betting that his playoff performance is who he could be over the season. And then this is one of my underrated guys too, another sleeper, Lonnie Walker IV.
I like him, actually. He's a very good athlete.
I really thought he was going to be, like, I thought the Spurs were going to pick him to kind of build around after they let DeJounte Murray go.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like, maybe they're going to build around Lonnie Walker. And they let him go. And I don't think the Lakers used him correctly.
No. I have another guy.
He shot 38.4% on threes last year.
I have my last guy on my list I have to go over real quick.
Give it to me.
He played on a good team the last few years. Now, it would be absolutely insane. This is why he's low on my list, but this would be absolutely insane. And you want to talk about setting the NBA free agency on fire? Malik Monk.
Oh, dude.
Malik Monk.
Sacramento's going to pay him.
Yes, they are.
But if there is any way that it could happen, I would be ecstatic.
Speed. And if you've watched the Bucks the last couple of years, especially last year, one thing they're missing: speed. Malik Monk is speed.
I love Malik Monk. I love Malik Monk. He's such a baller, dude.
Yeah.
If it could happen, I would be, like I said, ecstatic, thrilled.
Yeah. So I wrote down speed. That's definitely an area that he could help. That's something the Bucks have lacked really since the Brandon Jennings and Monte Ellis days. We haven't had a lot of speed since then. I mean, we've had guys. I mean, Eric Bledsoe is pretty fast, but he's more strong. Drew Holiday, not known for speed. The first year of Dame, we didn't really get the elite quickness. It came out that he didn't work out that whole offseason, so we didn't get the real Damian Lillard. So really, the last fast backcourt we had was Brandon Jennings and Monte Ellis, and they were both fast, both very fast.
Yeah, right?
All right. He would be an insane pickup.
All right. Speaking of backcourts, well, what are you looking at for backup point guards?
Backup point guards. All right. So I'm just going to run through my list real quick. Number 1, Russell Westbrook. I don't think I should have to explain that one. This guy has been there, done that, won an MVP, literally averaged a triple-double. He was asked to become a better defender by the Lakers. He did become a better defender just for a different LA team. He's not known as a shooter, but this guy can facilitate, and he knows what he's doing. Okay, so I'm not going to listen for any Russell Westbrook slander right now. Call him Westbrook, doesn't matter. He would be a monster as a backup point guard for the Bucks.
Yeah, especially if he buys into the role.
Yep. Number 2, Pat Bev. I shouldn't have to explain that. Yep. He knows Doc. He knows the players now. He played for us last year. He did what he did in the playoffs. He was upset. Everybody's had moments where they lacked judgment and at certain times in certain places where they weren't supposed to. He made a mistake. He apologized for it. I would love Pat Bev back. The energy that he brought to the team instantly changed the defensive intensity of the Bucks.
I think it changed the chemistry as well for the better.
I really, really fucking hate that I wrote him down for number 3, but Kyle Lowry makes a lot of sense to me. Play makes, shoots threes, veteran. I'm not going to keep saying good things about Kyle Lowry because I don't really like him, but it is what it is.
I have Beverly on my list as well.
Mm-hmm.
Shot 36.1% on threes of the Bucks last year.
Yes.
So I think that would be worth bringing him back to see if he can continue that. I put Spencer Dinwiddie on my list. He did not shoot great from the three-point line last year, but he did get better when he got to LA. So I think being around better players gives him better opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put Chris Dunn on my list. I don't think Utah is really going to be in a rush to bring him back. But he shot 47% from the field, 36.9% from the three-point line. So I think there's some potential there. Not a big bucket getter, but 5.4 points a game, 3.8 assists a game.
Yep. I have one more guy on my backup point guard list, and it's Dennis Smith Jr. Again, just like you said about Dunn.
I'm mad at that.
He's not a big bucket getter, but he's a guy who's an athlete. He could block your shot. He's a lob threat as a point guard because he's so athletic. So I think he'd be interesting, but that's why I have him at number 4 because I don't really know about the fit.
Not mad at it. All right, who do you got for some potential 3-and-D guys?
3-and-D guys, my number 1 is Royce O'Neal.
He's literally the only guy I have.
I wrote 2 other guys down just because I was like, I could see it. 37% from 3 and 114.9 defensive rating. Number 2, I put Nicholas Batum. Maybe just we could capture that, lightning in a bottle. That
the old man strength for the playoffs that apparently he came through with.
I mean, maybe we'll see. Maybe, managing his minutes during the entire season could work. And another guy that is damn near on grandpa threads would be Wes Matthews, but he makes a ton of sense for me. He shoots a lot of threes. We can see the bow and arrow again. That always gets everybody going. And a 118.8 defensive rating is not great. It's actually very bad. But he was on a really bad defensive team with the Hawks. So I think a change of scenery, getting back to a defensive first team with the Bucks. The Bucks are going to be locked in next year. I don't think people understand that. So getting a guy like Wes Matthews to come back to the Bucks, buy into the culture, and be part of the culture, I think would benefit him and the team.
I could see that. One thing we can guarantee is that Thanasis is not going to be on the roster next year, so there's a 15th roster spot we could throw, and you could do worse than Wes Matthews.
True.
One guy that you could possibly bet on, I guess, in the same category as Batum and Matthews, as guys that are like older some injury history. I'd throw Robert Covington in that list. He's been a 3-and-D guy in the past, and 5 years ago, I would have wanted him instantly.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for a minimum deal, you could just see if it happens that he can come back healthy.
Yeah.
If he is 100% healthy, he's got definitely 3-and-D capabilities, but that injury history is pretty extensive.
It's tough.
All right. Any defensive specialists that you want to throw out there?
So I wrote a couple down. I wrote down Pat Bev. He's literally known for just playing defense. He's a pit bull. Again, he raised the energy of the Bucks on the defensive end just by showing up in the building. Number 2 is Gary Payton II, another former Buck, a guy that was known as a defensive stopper over in Golden State, and a guy who has some injury history. But maybe if they can get him right, I think that could work. And number 3 is an old guy. His name is Thaddeus Young. Now, what you just said about Robert Covington was oh, geez, yeah. 5 years ago, I would have fucking loved this. But he's a guy that has playoff experience. He knows how to finish around the rim. He's a good vet. He's kind of like a Jeff Green type at this point. But he would just be a guy that could defend multiple positions, and he would just come in for situational. So I don't hate having him on this list.
The 2 other guys that I have on my list, I put Kyle Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of bet on his 2022-2023 season where he shot 41% on threes. But he's 6'9". He's been in the NBA for a long time, and he has a career 106 defensive rating. So for him to be in the league for 9 years, yes, he's been on good defensive teams, but after 9 years, I think you have to kind of consider that he's part of why the teams are good defensively, not he's good defensively because of the teams he's been on. And then the other one, this is predicated on a team option being declined, and it's Bruce Brown. He is a $23 million option.
Yeah.
I've read that Toronto is interested in picking it up and trying to trade him.
Wow.
But I think you're going to have a tough time finding somebody who wants to pay Bruce Brown $23 million.
Yeah, I think the Pacers overpaid for him and realized that, and they were like, yeah, we're just going to flip you for Siakam.
Yeah. He became salary filler in that deal.
Yep.
So if his team option is declined, the Bucks should call him that instant.
Agreed.
And see if he would be interested in coming to the Bucks. If that option is picked up, I think Toronto is going to have very few teams that are going to be interested in trading for him.
Yeah, not a lot of teams that could, take on that cap in the first place.
Right. Not contending teams. You're going to have to try to find a middling, like an Orlando Magic or something, or maybe Philadelphia, because they're going to have some cap space, but a lot of that cap space is going to Tyrese Maxey.
Yep.
So yeah, if his option is declined, Bruce Brown would be on my list. All right, let's talk some combos.
Yes, sir.
All right, just give me some of the combos you got. You don't have to, go super in depth with them, but yeah, just hit me with some of the combinations of draft picks that we talked about and some of the free agents we just mentioned.
All right, so first one is Ryan Dunn and Gary Trent Jr. I mean, you got a guy who's an all offensive kind of guy and a guy who's a defensive stopper. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Number 2 is where I have Rashawn Holmes and Emmanuel Quickley. In the world where Emmanuel Quickley comes over to the Milwaukee Bucks and Holmes falls to the Bucks at 23 or 33, I think that would absolutely be a fucking match made in heaven. Number 4 is where I have Khalil Ware and Malik Monk, again, in some crazy dimension where Malik Monk makes his way over to the Milwaukee Bucks. I think Ware being able to run the floor with Giannis, with all that length, and Malik Monk pushing the pace with the speed. Oh, mamma mia. Number 4. Now, I have back-to-back with Kolek. I'm just going to give you a little foreshadow. But I like the combination of Mike Muscala and Tyler Kolek, man. Tyler Kolek being crafty with his ability to find open shooters, and Muscala being the veteran that he is, finding the open spot. I think that would be a pretty good combo. I think that would be a little underrated in my opinion. And then my number 5 is Kolek and Holmes together. The lobs, the three-pointers, I mean, that would just be disgusting.
So I put together just some groups that would be the 23rd, 33rd, and then some free agency. The combination potentially of Keyshawn George, Jamal Shed, and Mo Bamba, I think would be an interesting combination. You get your backup point guard, you get another athletic wing that can shoot, and then you get your backup big man that's a floor spacing big as well.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably my favorite combo. Khalil Ware at 23, Ryan Dunn at 33. You bring back Patrick Beverly and you sign Lonnie Walker.
On 2K they're a problem. On 2K they're a problem.
That to me, I think, would be a great combination of draft picks and free agents.
Mm.
And then similarly, my other combination that I have would be Keyshawn George again, taking my number one bucket, Baylor Shireman, and then bringing in Patrick Beverly and Dario Saric.
You're big on the Saric, huh? Okay.
Oh, just wait. I'm not done talking about Dario Saric. All right. So I really think that combination of George, Shireman, Beverly, and Saric, I think that would just build the Bucks' depth back up, as well as keeping them available for some potential trades. So, hit me with your first trade idea.
Okay, so I didn't rank them in order of my favorites. I just went trade 1, trade 2, trade 3.
Yep.
So I was just trying trades, and some of them went through, but I was like, it's not happening. So the Bucks trade Pat Connaughton, and I'm sad to do this, Marjon Beauchamp, and pick 33 to the Bulls, and they get Alex Caruso. Now, you may ask, what are the Bulls getting? What the hell are the Bulls right now anyways? What? Seriously. I literally, I know that made you laugh, but, like, I don't mean that as, like, disrespect. What are they doing? They're just sitting there right in the middle. They just get absolutely freaking pounded by the upper echelon teams, and then they beat Charlotte back-to-back games. They're like, we can make the playoffs. What the hell are they doing?
Oh, that's funny.
Alex Caruso makes too much sense to be on the Bucks. Pat Connaughton, sorry, you don't play enough defense. You're not as reliable as a three-point shooter. Alex Caruso is a level above you. I have to be realistic right now. Marjon, they get a developmental player. With Pat, they get a guy who's been there and done that. With pick 33, they get to pick whoever the hell they want at a very highly valuable draft pick. Right. I think it makes a lot of sense. Do you want to go back and forth on trades, or you want me to put all mine out?
Yeah, because otherwise I feel like you're going to steal one of mine, and I want to get this one out there.
Okay, go ahead.
So this one, for all of the, did the Bucks give Drew Holiday? Did the Bucks give Boston the championship?
Here we go.
The Bucks do it back.
Uh-oh.
Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton to the Memphis Grizzlies for Marcus Smart.
Oh, I don't have that, by the way.
We get our missing piece as a former Celtic, that the Celtics got their missing piece with a former Buck.
Oh, that would be juicy.
Then, right after that, you turn around, you sign Dario Saric, and then you draft Khalil Ware, Ryan Dunn, and sign Lonnie Walker.
This man is going to be number one in the Dario Saric.
If Bobby Portis is traded, you sign Dario Saric the same day.
This is the least expected thing of all time, in my opinion, bro. But I love it.
All right, give me your second one.
All right. So my second one, I have the Bucks trading Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, and Marjon Beauchamp. And they're picking up Dylan Brooks. I know that people don't like him.
Oh, you're going to Houston too. Look at us.
Dylan Brooks and Steven Adams.
Okay.
Now, I know Steven Adams was injured, but he is a monster rebounder when he's in the game. For everybody that bitched about Brook Lopez not grabbing rebounds, Steven Adams is grabbing the goddamn rebound. Okay?
Look at us.
Dylan Brooks is your point of attack defender that you trade for. I mean, the Rockets, they wanted Brook last year. They get him now. They're going to get Bobby Portis, a guy who could be their sixth man, and they're getting Marjon Beauchamp, a guy that can replace Dylan Brooks in the rotation on the wing. It makes sense to me.
Michael, I know trading Bobby Portis is not going to be a fan favorite move, but at the point they're at, they're not full of assets, and Bobby Portis is an asset.
I needed him to make the
that. Unfortunately, like as far as the culture goes, he's absolutely a massive, if not the biggest part of it. Well, I can't say that. Giannis is definitely the biggest part. But we can't just keep guys because we like who they are.
We said the same thing about A.J. Dillon, right?
The bottom line with Bobby Portis is, as much as we love him, this pains me to say it, his production is replaceable.
It is.
The person, I'm gonna ignore that comment, Michael, and pretend you didn't just make it. The sad thing to say about Bobby Portis is that he's worth more as a person than a player.
Oh my God!
That's where the attachment comes in. You can't tell me that people are attached to just the way that he plays.
It's true. I mean, I love that he gets the crowd fired up. I love when he gets on fire making the threes. But, you know, we needed him in a situation in Indianapolis, and he got kicked out of a game. So, I mean, for a guy, God, I love Bobby, and this is hurting me to say this. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. And me and you were very loud at the trade deadline, especially this year, because it didn't make sense to trade him away this year. But after seeing how the rest of the year works out, looking at the draft prospects, I think a guy like Bobby Portis becomes tradable. You know, first of all, you got to make the money work if you're getting any of these guys anyways, right? Yep. You're not trading Chris. I'm sorry. He's not going anywhere. He's Giannis' best friend.
Not happening.
Giannis, because we're never getting another Giannis. He's unique. By the way, RIP to Jerry West. And he had a really, really beautiful piece on Giannis. Said that he's never seen a guy like him before in his life. And that guy's a freaking NBA logo. So he's seen Wilt Chamberlain, bro.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're not trading away Damian Lillard. So, I mean, what's the next most valuable asset? It's Bobby Portis. It is what it is. So that's all I got on that.
My second one does also involve trading Brook Lopez to the Rockets. But it's Brook Lopez and a 2031 second-round pick for Steven Adams and Tari Eason.
Oh.
So that would also be based on the Rockets picking up his team option.
Okay.
So he'd have to have his team option picked up. Yes, Michael, untouchable, Giannis, Lillard, Middleton. Absolutely untouchable, those three.
That's it.
After that, everybody else except for maybe Ajax is touchable.
I'm not even going to say maybe. You could trade them. Those are the three. We say they're the big three, right? So they're who we're building around. They're the championship window. That's it. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. Everything else is touchable.
I mean, Ryan Dunn is a defensive specialist, which is exactly what Ajax was last year anyways. Ryan Dunn could do what Ajax did. Sorry.
The only thing is that Ajax impressed me with his three-point shooting.
He was a little bit better as a three-point shooter than I expected, but Dunn could surprise you too. Just saying.
You'd have to surprise me like double.
He would. He would definitely surprise me.
He's not a three-point shooter.
I was watching his highlight video. He made 1 3 and he was talking shit after it. I was like, dog, you made one.
He's got mid-range game. He's got that, but not a three-point shooter.
Yes.
Okay. So Steven Adams, Tari Eason, you already mentioned the Rockets having interest in Brook Lopez. They actually offered him more money than the Bucks did.
They did.
The Bucks offered him and signed him 2 for $48. The Rockets offered him 2 for $50.
Yeah, they did.
So now they can get him. They can allow Alperen Şengün to play power forward. Then the Bucks get one of the best humans in the NBA in Steven Adams, and one of the best screen setters in the NBA. You can find highlight videos of Steven Adams setting screens and annihilating people.
He's strong.
Dude, he is a truck. Having him setting screens for Damian Lillard would be a very, very welcome sight.
I mean, I like me some Steven Adams. Don't get me wrong.
And then definitely more rebounding, like you mentioned. And then you can add Tari Eason, who averaged 9.8 points and 7 rebounds last year. So another guy who could potentially help with some rebounds. He shot 36% on threes last year, averaged 1.4 steals, and had a 106 defensive rating. This deal would also help the Bucks clear $6.7 million in cap space.
Yeah.
All right, hit me with your third one.
Save this one for last. This is my favorite one. This is by far my favorite one. The Bucks trade Brook Lopez and Pat Connaughton to the Atlanta Hawks, and they get Okongwu and DeAndre Hunter in return. Now, I'm only doing this trade if I'm guaranteed the Bucks draft Khalil Ware from Indiana. If they replace Lopez with Ware, they trade for Okongwu, multiple positional defender. They get DeAndre Hunter, a guy that could be a bucket. He could be kind of a two-way player at sometimes. He's like a Walmart two-way player. He can get some buckets. He can play some defense, but absolutely by far my favorite trade that I came up with. And I was doing trades for like 2 straight hours yesterday.
My Marcus Smart trade is definitely my favorite one. This is probably my least favorite one, but also I think probably the one that's most likely to happen out of the 3 that I have. It's Bobby Portis and Chris Livingston to the Hornets for Grant Williams. It's a trade that was previously discussed. Like I said, it's not my favorite trade, but it's definitely one that I think is the most possible.
Damn it. I don't want Grant Williams. He was, my God, I was laughing my ass off at him the other day because he was like, man, it hurt not to get a tribute video from Boston. I'm like, bro, you're a side character. You're not a main character. You don't get tribute. Not everybody gets a goddamn video, bro.
Yeah, not for scoring 24 points once a series.
And, like, what are they going to put on the damn video? You taking a damn charge and flopping? What are we talking about?
Yeah, that is one thing I don't like about it. If he didn't flop, I would 1,000% respect his game.
Yeah, we talked about it when we played him. Multiple position defender, guy that could hit a 3. I mean, he has lots of ability on defense. So, I mean, he would just allows you to switch everything on defense. So, I like the trade just for that alone.
Exactly. A proven defender, playoff experience. He's made tons of shots in the playoffs. The Hornets get a low post scorer and a guy to help energize their crowds, which is absolutely something Charlotte could use.
Yeah, Jesus.
They have it for TV, but they need it in person.
Yeah. Oh man, they have. Can you imagine Bobby Portis going crazy with that?
Dude, that would be awesome.
I would actually enjoy that.
So with that, then the Bucks need to draft Tyler Smith and Ryan Dunn, and then sign Buddy Hield.
Okay, I'm with it. I would like Buddy Hield, by the way. I really like that pick by you.
Okay, so the last segment that we have that we teased, we didn't actually go through.
Oh yeah.
Who would be some of the players that you would trade or draft if Bobby Portis was traded?
Bro, I completely forgot that we were doing that section. I thought the trades was last.
I'll go first. I haven't gone first on any of the segments yet, so I'll go first on this one because you're gonna love my number one.
Okay, go ahead. I just got back to it.
My number one, if Bobby Portis is traded, draft Jon Holmes.
He might be on my list. I don't know.
Okay, he might be on your list.
It might be.
Who's your number one?
It might be Jon Holmes.
Maybe.
It's definitely Jon Holmes. He has the size. He matches up with the size and the three-point shooting. So I just think it makes too much sense. If you can't tell throughout this episode, I like Jon Holmes, and I think that he'd be good on the Bucks.
I love this. You're gonna grin ear to ear when I say what I have to say. What about my number two? My number two is Tyler Smith. I gave you all the measurables before. His comp is Charlie Villanueva.
Shut your freaking mouth.
We've talked about Charlie Villanueva a pretty good amount on our show about a man who was before his time. Now we can get the man who has comparisons to Charlie Villanueva and Tyler Smith.
Oh, dude. Oh, man. I just got so happy for no reason. Oh, man. I love that. Holy crap. I love that. Okay. Control yourself. I love Charlie Villanueva. He was one of my favorite all-time Bucks. Holy crap. So, geez, I can't even talk right now. I couldn't believe you.
Rendered him speechless. Oh, damn, I'm good.
Okay, so my number two would be Khalil Ware from Indiana. I think that he, again, would fill a lot of needs. Three-point shooting, energy. I mean, you're going to get energized when somebody blocks a shot and then runs down the court and dunks on somebody. Just saying. He has that ability. You look at him just dunk on people from standing position. It's just like, God damn. Imagine him having to worry about Giannis. And then Giannis scoops it underneath. You turn around, it's just a wham on top of your head. Like, good.
You're just looking at somebody's number.
Yeah, like you just turn around, it's just like, yeah, that's not great for me. But, you know, it is what it is. But I think Ware would be a great replacement for Bobby in terms of energy.
My number 3 is kind of just to replace a guy who does things offensively for you. Tristan Da Silva is my number 3.
Okay. So I was watching a bunch of highlight videos, reading a bunch of articles last couple of weeks, and a guy that I think could have a comp to Bobby Portis is PJ Hall. I didn't mention him in any of my segments, but PJ Hall out of Clemson is 6'9" with a 7'1" wingspan, very similar to Bobby Portis. He's a little older. He's 22 years old. Sounds really stupid to say, but he's tough and he can shoot the rock. He hit it 32% of his threes last year. He's projected to be around 35, 36% in the NBA, and that's because he was taking a lot of tough shots for Clemson. So if he gets around that 35, 36%, he was averaging 22.8 points, 8 rebounds. He has a 39.5-inch vertical, which is not comparable to Bobby Portis. He does not have a 39.
No.
He shot 48% from the field. I told you the three-point percentage and 78% from the free throw line. So those are all comparable numbers, and I think that he has a similar play style, a little bit of a post game. But he's a guy that I think could have a comp to Bobby Portis if you want to just replace Bobby Portis with Bobby Portis Jr.
All right, I could see that. My number 4, I went with a guy the Bucks would probably have to trade down to make a little more sense to pick him. However, looking at like some of the picks, I looked at what the Bucks gave up for 36 last year to get Andre Jackson Jr. And I looked at just some trade value charts to see like what kind of things would make sense. And then I looked for teams that had 2 second-round picks. The Indiana Pacers have numbers 49 and 50. And the trade value works out almost identically. So we could probably trade 33 for 49, 50 and either some cash or another second-round pick in the future. So my number 4, if Bobby Portis is traded, is also Iguodala from Marquette. He's 6'10", 222, so he's a pretty similar size. Another guy with a massive vertical that Bobby Portis does not have, 39.5-inch vertical for Iguodala.
Yeah.
Now, he does not have the 3-ball that Bobby Portis does, but Iguodala is a very good pick-and-roll player. You could run some dribble handoff with him. He can play defense. He has a 101 career defensive rating. Great footwork in the mid-range and the low post. That's what makes him the potential Bobby Portis replacement for me, is you have a guy you can dump the ball down to, clear out, let him go to work. He's got some offensive versatility. He showed it a little bit at the combine with an off-the-dribble pass. He had a spin move, spun baseline, and hit a pass to a dude for a layup. So he's a good passer overall, but he really showed that at the combine as well. And I'll leave you with this. According to Shot Quality, he had the 6th highest field goal percentage in college basketball when double teamed at 63%.
God damn, that's a great stat, buddy. It's really good. I like that. I only had 3, so you can give your last one if you're ready.
That was number 4 was also Iguodala was my last one.
Okay. All right.
So I knew you'd love my Tyler Smith comp.
Yeah,
So that's why I thought this would be a great segment to end on. So for those of you that stuck around with us for the whole thing, for part of it, if you're listening to this later, thank you. I think there's tons of information to dive into with this, and we're going to repurpose a lot of it to try to get as much of this information as we can out in the next 2 weeks before the draft. So thank you for sticking with us, and we will see you guys on Wednesday for the regular Wednesday show.
Well, I will see you guys on Sunday on Father's Day. My dad and I are doing an episode. We're just going to do something really fun. It's just going to be some Mount Rushmores of Wisconsin sports, just my dad and his opinion, Badgers, Brewers, Bucks, Packers, and then we're going to make an ultimate Mount Rushmore of our top 4 favorite players. So not many Euro players mentioned, but there's not – I mean, the main Euro players, in my opinion, Michael, are getting drafted in the top 5. So, I mean –
that, and I will say a couple of the guys like Pelle Larsson and Keyshawn George were both born in Europe.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, I mean, we didn't want to like water it down with the guys that are going to go in the top 10, top 15 picks. It didn't make sense to us to do that with the Bucks picking at 23 and 33 and not really having a reason or the assets to trade up. So we didn't feel the need to include those guys because they're not really on the Bucks radar.
Yeah. So it's not like the NFL draft, the NBA draft. So we wanted to really hyper focus on guys in the certain area. Yeah. So that's why you kind of heard some guys' names more often because they fit that positional need and that pick. So that's the reasoning for that. But I will see you guys Sunday. You will see Tyler and I back together on Wednesday. And then, so we'll just go from there and go Brewers, go Bucks.
All right. See you guys then. Thanks for tuning in.